everyone didn't hear, this is the June 29th meeting of the Southampton Select Board. I want to welcome everyone to our second in-person Select Board meeting, and I'm hoping that we will not have to return to remote meetings anytime soon. I want to welcome John Lumbra, our new member of the Select Board, and Joy Piper, our other newly elected Select Board member, and Renee Groden will not be with us tonight, but we're looking forward to our full inaugural meeting of the newly elected Select Board on July 13th. I'd like to begin. I want to congratulate Vulcan LLC, the owners of Dreamer Store, which officially opened on June 19th with one of the largest crowds I've seen gathered in Southampton in a while, and we wish them much success. As you know, tomorrow is the end of our current fiscal year, and I'm sure everyone who knows that the override did not pass we'll be talking a little later about what to expect during this next fiscal year under the balanced budget scenario. So with that, does anybody have anything they'd like to add before we begin?
No, nothing for me. Thanks.
John? Okay. All right. We have no public hearing scheduled, so our first presentation for the evening is Erica Ann Flood from Easthampton Media. Please come forward.
Thank you very much, members of the Select Board, for having me here tonight. I'll just start off by reading our mission statement. For the new members who might not be as familiar with us, Easthampton Media, Inc. is a 501c3 nonprofit. The mission is to empower anyone in the community to be digital media content creators by providing access to professional video, audio, and multimedia tools and training. We're a nonprofit organization that promotes creativity, personal expression, and civic engagement. And originally, I believed I was asked to come to just speak a little bit about our onboarding process. We do currently have 6 board members. We've just brought 2 more members on in our annual meeting in June. Myself, Stan Diamond, Jonathan Schmidt, Nilda Cohen, Frank Tillerico, and Mike Yeager are the current members of the board of directors. Myself, I'm the president. Jonathan Schmidt is the vice president. Frank Tillerico is our clerk. And Nilda Cohen is our treasurer. So those are the officers for this current year. We do have 3 vacant seats, and we have discussed previously, so in our recent bylaw changes, we have allowed for 2 nominations to come from Southampton. Now, I'd like to just describe the word nomination. It's really more of a recruitment tool is the way that we're looking at it. As you know, it's difficult to find volunteers within our communities, and we think it's very important to keep volunteers coming. We'd like to have the board rotating so that we're not losing, 3 people at the same time. We want to have people join at separate times. So we're reaching out to our partner communities, Southampton and Easthampton as well, and providing these opportunities to just help us search for nominees from your community. And what that does is basically you're our partner in searching for and maybe encouraging folks to step up. What we do is step number 1 is just once a volunteer or a prospect is identified, we ask that they just send us a letter of interest. Let us know a little bit about themselves. What are some of their skills, or what are their interests in joining the board for Easthampton Media? Once we receive the letter of interest, we invite them to attend 2 consecutive board meetings, and we typically meet once monthly as a full board. That has been on Zoom. We will hopefully be moving into in-person meetings again. After the 2 consecutive meetings, we did send some questions, like 4 questions, just for feedback. And those were basically, along the lines of like, what did you anticipate and what is your understanding of Easthampton Media? We want to make sure that we're communicating effectively who we are as an organization, and that the folks that are stepping up to join our board, that we have clear communication with them about that. Also, what are some of the, after having sat through a couple meetings, what are some of the skill sets that you feel you can bring to the table, or some ideas? So very easy questions, just another step to help us get to know each other better. And then after that, the information is given to our ad hoc nominating committee, where we discuss the nominations and make the recommendations to our full board for a full board vote on new members. So again, we will be looking for volunteers in the fall. Now, the reason why I say the fall is because we're having an informal meeting in July as a full board to bring those new members on who are just voted in June. And then in August, we're having some downtime. Another change in our bylaws was to eventually have July and August off for our volunteer board members. Those months are going to be saved for, let's say, finance committee meetings and kind of the ad hoc work that needs to get done, but we wanted to give our members just a little bit of downtime in the summer. So in the fall, we'll be putting out the call again. We hope that we can get at least one more nominee from Southampton, if not more. I know that Mike Yeager came from Southampton, and I anticipate that he may be also backed by the select board, but I'm not sure that process quite yet. He was voted on even without the letter, so either way, we have room and we welcome others. It would be really great to have somebody maybe that's familiar with the school committee, because we would like to increase our services to the Southampton School Committee, and if we have somebody who's really familiar with how it works and how we can best support them, that's sort of my call. Would be great if somebody who's familiar with the school committee would be interested. Other than that, I figured I'm here, so I'm happy to answer whatever questions you might have, either about the process or the organization as a whole.
Yeah, so just a question on the process. So Mike has already been admitted to the board from your end?
Yes.
We just need to ratify that from our end as a
I was
select board,
hoping the ratification would come before, but I think with we had a little schedule change.
Okay.
Moving into person and the agenda change. So if the select board feels moved to just write a letter in support, that's fine. But I basically wanted to let you know that we do have another member from Southampton who's joined, and I believe he comes from the ad hoc tech committee.
He does. Yeah.
So it's up to you procedurally if you'd like to add a letter just for the record, or save that for somebody in the future.
Or should we take a vote on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple of other people express interest.
Yes, we had.
Well.
We did have some folks who expressed interest but didn't quite move through the process. So we are hoping that maybe those folks will come back around in the fall. If I may, that was Dan LaValle, who is also from the Ad Hoc Tech Committee, from my understanding, and Kim Florick, who I believe is involved in
With the school,
schools.
so she'd be the likely,
and
a likely candidate from
would
the
be
school.
excellent. So I think we'll just work on, again, communicating sort of the process and the schedule. I know it was a really tricky spring with a lot of people just pivoting quickly. So certainly we'd love to see people step up again. And if there's anybody out there who's new and interested but wasn't aware, I'm hoping that this is just another opportunity to get the word out.
Great.
Okay. No, I think you have an interesting process for bringing people in. I mean, that way they know and you know enough about one another to make a hopefully a good decision.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things with volunteerism is just understanding how much time is expected, and sometimes our meetings are an hour long and sometimes they're 2 hours long. So to give them a couple meetings to get a real flavor of what happens, and to sort of see where we're at in our annual cycle of projects, I think that's our goal, is to just really make sure that they understand what they're committing to. A standard board position is a 2-year position, and then an officer's role is 3 years. So again, we just want to give people the opportunity, and I've communicated it with prospective board members. If after 2 meetings they're not quite sure yet, we can stretch it to a 3rd meeting. If they're sort of like, I don't know if I have the time commitment, we are not dead set on 2, but 2 meetings is the minimum, just again to make sure everybody's on the same page and understands what the commitments are. So.
And what happens if a person does go through this process? They go to 2 meetings, they express in writing, their interest. We would recommend them, and then your board doesn't select them.
I haven't been in that position yet.
Under what circumstances would you not?
Yeah, I'm not sure because that's a total hypothetical.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm sure there would be extensive communication.
Okay.
Yeah, our goal is to keep everything clear, communication-wise, and open and transparent. So I would anticipate that if there were, again, we'd sort of added in that sending some additional questions for feedback to try to get a better sense of folks as well. So I think if there were any additional questions that came up in that process, I do believe our ad hoc nominating committee would be more likely to probably reach out for like a one-on-one discussion before a vote was taken. We have a very thoughtful group of people. Honestly, our goal is to find volunteers, not turn them away. It's tough. As you know, on all these local boards and committees, it's hard to get people who have the time and the passion.
We know.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And just a point of clarity, how many open seats do you have now, then?
We have 3 because our bylaws allow us to have up to 9 members, and we're currently at 6. We do have another member who will be terming off, so that'll open up to 4. But again, we're trying to keep it rotating so we're not ever, like really desperate for members. We want to kind of have a nice, hopefully, flow of people coming through with their terms.
I have a couple of questions. The bylaws that were submitted to us, those have been ratified as of March?
Yes, and I actually have a signed copy of them tonight because I wasn't sure if you guys received the signed ratified copy.
Can you tell me if there's a difference between a board of director member and a board member, or is it the same position?
It is the same, yep.
Okay. So under 4.3
Yep.
of your bylaws, the mayor of Easthampton gets to nominate one person, Easthampton School Committee nominates one, Southampton Board of Selectmen nominates one, and the Southampton School Committee nominates one
Yes.
for your consideration.
Yes.
So the first step would be for each of those bodies to submit a nomination, and then you, according to what's written here.
Yes,
And then they go and they attend 2 meetings,
yes.
and then at that point, your chair, so the person has to express their interest to the appointing authority or the nominating authority.
Or to us directly, which is the case that happened this time because, again, these were recent changes. We were trying to clean up. The language in our previous version was even more confusing. So I think what happened in the last one is we did send this out, and then we had 3 folks from the ad hoc tech committee self-identify as the nominee from the ad hoc tech committee. So we had a series of emails with Ed and I and the select board, I know, and we basically said, okay, well, let's see, let's just try to navigate through the process this first time through. So Mike Yeager was the person who went step by step by step through. The last piece that was missing was just the letter of nomination from the select board. So in the future, I would love it if we could kind of go A, B, C, D and have.
Well, I guess I would offer that because it kind of sounds to me like they were nominating themselves for the community positions and
Yeah.
not for the board appointees. So perhaps they shouldn't be considered for a seat from the board until it comes from the board.
Well, so that's essentially what I was saying earlier is if you feel strongly about that candidate who's already been on and you just, really for our records, want to write a letter of support and we'll insert it into the record post-vote, that's fine. But if you can identify 2 other people and those are your nominees, I'm okay with that as well, and the board would be. So we had emails back and forth, and we had scheduled changes, and so things just didn't align. But our annual meeting was June 14th, and the last select board meeting was June
2 weeks ago.
15th, 16th?
15th.
Or, yeah.
15th.
So
Yeah.
we missed each other, and my request for the letter was hanging out there for a solid month, but
No,
we didn't
I understand
want
that
to
part.
not vote Mike on board because he didn't have the letter. So
Is the annual meeting generally in the month of June?
it has been earlier previously, but with this whirlwind of a year,
Yeah.
we tried to push it back and to give more time to bring some new folks on board, to just get all of our business done so we could start fresh with June. I do anticipate June being the new month.
Okay.
It also lends itself to more events and people, it's a better time of year to have people come to an annual meeting as well as what we have discussed.
So speaking as chair of the school committee and
Yes.
not a select board member, then if you have to be in 2 meetings ahead of time, then you would want the school committee to act upon this in the month of April, to meet your June deadline, to allow them to attend 2 meetings before your annual
If
meeting.
we were looking at June, so if I'll look forward if I could. So our next available, we're going to be meeting in September. So between now and September, if somebody were identified, we could
Right.
invite them to September and October, and they don't have to be voted in at the
Right,
annual
But
meeting.
once you're up and running,
Yes,
and you're following this, unless there's a resignation,
yes,
right, the appointments will happen at the annual meetings,
yes.
right, not throughout.
Exactly. So there'll be, it's like rolling admission, right? So we will onboard people throughout the year. The officers are they're installed in the June annual meeting. So that's the only dead.
Yep.
But the community members are not.
Community members can be onboarded at any time of
Anytime.
year.
Right.
So if there's one person in the fall that is identified and onboarded, great, and then another one in the spring. Again, we want to have rolling terms, so we don't just hit like March and all of a sudden lose 5 people.
Sure.
That's bad planning. So we're really shooting to reorganize and have this long-term board process play out.
Okay, that sounds good. Any other?
Any other questions?
Okay, well,
Thank you, and thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for inviting me here, and I'm happy to come back at any time if any other questions come up throughout the year, but I appreciate this moment.
okay. All right, thank you for coming in. All right, the next agenda item is a long list of appointments and with 1 or 2 resignations in there. And so what I thought we would do is we would vote on these in groups where it made sense, either by department or committee, if that's how it works out, or in some cases, we'll do it individually if they're not affiliated with any other appointees. So let's begin with Mary Syriac and her resignation from the Finance Committee. Something I'm very sorry to see, but I understand.
You need a motion?
I need a motion to accept her resignation.
So moved to accept the resignation of Mary Syriac from the Finance Committee.
Thank you. And a second?
Second discussion.
Okay.
I'm just assuming we received a written communication signed by her.
You're just assuming?
I'm assuming she put it in writing that
Yes,
she's
she did.
resigning.
Yes.
And it's on file?
Yes. It's not part of this packet, but I did receive it. I think we all did.
Yeah, I know she
Correct.
notified
Yes.
the town clerk, so.
Yes. Okay, so with any other discussion? All right. So those
Need to vote.
in favor of accepting her resignation?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you. Another, the individual we just spoke about, Mike Yeager, his appointment, or his nomination to the Easthampton Media Board. Do I have a motion to nominate Mike Yeager?
Sure, I'll move to nominate Mike Yeager to the Easthampton Media Board.
Second.
Second, okay, any discussion?
Well, you can do 2 things here. You can do what Erica said and basically send a letter of support,
Okay,
or you can reserve that and still have the right to nominate someone else.
okay.
So that's up to the board.
Well, the
You wanna
fact
do?
that he's more or less already on board and engaged, and he represents the IT ad hoc committee as well.
And we could also send a letter of support, no?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm inclined
I would be in
to
favor
go
of doing
ahead
that.
with it. I don't know about anyone else.
Sure, I'd be in favor of that.
I mean, all 3 of those individuals, including Mike, knew about it and sent the letter to Easthampton Media because it was the select board that let them know that they were looking, because they felt it was a good match for someone with the technology background.
Right.
So, I mean, it did start from the select board itself.
Right. And we have an opportunity for, well, it'll come from the school, but Southampton does have an opportunity to have appoint another Easthampton Media Board member.
Correct.
yes.
And actually, the school committee may have a little more influence over Kim Floric than the select board does.
I wouldn't count on it.
Okay. So we had a motion and a second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So we'll move to our first multiple. You see that the fire department, ambulance, and emergency management are all lumped together. So I'll read John Workman to be appointed as the ambulance coordinator, the reappointment, to be reappointed as the ambulance coordinator, his term to expire June 30th, 2022. John Workman to be reappointed as the Deputy Civil Defense Director, term to expire June 30th, 2022. And John Workman to be newly appointed as the Emergency Management Director with his term to expire June 30th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, John?
I'll second it.
And a second. Discussion?
Yes. So just, since I'm new, I'm assuming that all these positions in here, and specifically, we can go one by one, but there's nothing new in the budget here. If there is any compensation to go with this, it's already tied into the budget and the balanced
Right.
budget. This isn't additional, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right,
Thanks.
there's not, we're not adding to anything. This is already accounted for.
Okay.
Okay, can I call for a vote, please, on John Workman in his 3 positions?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have that. All right, moving on then to the building department. We have Tom Sears, reappointment to the plumbing and gas inspector, term to expire June 30th, 2022. Anthony Logren, reappointed as the alternate plumbing and gas inspector, term to expire June 30th, 2022. James Fisher, reappointment as electrical inspector, term to expire June 30th, 2022. Ronald Bednarz, reappointment as the alternate electrical inspector, term to expire June 30th, 2022. Ron Lauren, reappointment as the building commissioner, term to expire June 30th, 2022. Jonathan Flagg, alternate building commissioner, reappointment, term to expire June 30th, 2022. And Tom A. Quinlan, reappointment, alternate building commissioner, term to expire June 30th, 2022.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Approve as read.
and a second?
I'll second it. And
Okay,
question?
discussion? Sure.
Just a question.
Yes.
I don't remember us having 2 alternate building commissioners in the past, but is that something that we need to have 2 alternates to a building inspector?
Actually, we have.
Have we?
Yes. So, yeah, it's a good idea, just in case one of them isn't available, because it's not their, shall we say, first assignment or their first job.
So they're only called in when the
necessary.
principal is out or
Correct.
can't.
So do we
Yeah.
have an order in which we call people in when Ron isn't available? Who do we go to next?
Depending on which of these 2 is available at that time.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. With that, I have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving these 7 individuals from the building department to serve in the various capacities I've enumerated?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, the next group is for the Council on Aging Board. We have Janet Kane, COA Board reappointment, term to expire June 30th, 2024. We have Sylvia Galvan, a new appointment, currently an alternate on the COA Board, term to expire June 30th, 2024. And Jonathan J., new appointment, currently currently an alternate on the COA Board, term to expire June 30th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the 3 individuals named for the COA board.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All right. Any discussion? Okay. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm going to abstain. Okay, thank you. All right, the next group we're looking at is the Ad Hoc Technology Committee. Dan LaValle, a reappointment to the Ad Hoc Technology Committee, a term to expire June 30th, 2024. And Art Arthur Lawrence, reappointment to the Ad hoc Technology Committee, term also to expire June 30th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
second? Okay, any discussion? Okay, thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we're getting down the list here, folks. Okay, our next group is through the Veterans Office. William Wells, reappointment as Veterans Grave Officer, term to expire June 30th, 2022. And Gerald Paquette Jr., reappointment as the Veteran Service Officer, term to expire June 30th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then finally, Ryan Gielaher, reappointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals, term to expire June 30th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion, questions? All right, with that, can I have your vote, please?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we went through all the appointment and appointments with one resignation, so thank you. And I really appreciate people stepping up to the plate, as Erica was talking about the importance of volunteers in our government and its operation, so thank you to everyone, and hope you all have a good term. All right, we're going to move then on to the report section. We'll begin with reports from select board members, and I can only look to my left as a report. All right.
Let me see.
Chris?
Yikes. Yeah, not a whole lot of real news. Let's see, there's been a meeting of the Conservation Commission since we last met, I think. Feels like it has been. And Board of Assessors. Routine business and maybe some new things coming along as we get forward in the next week or two. The Concom, I believe, is ready to get going on the Manhattan Meadows restoration, and I don't know where we are with the actual contract and on the winning bidder on that, Ed. Have we concluded that yet, or is that?
No, Concom still has to try to get a meeting with the successful bidder to go over some differences from the original bid
Okay.
to put into the contract.
So that's back in their court then to do that?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
All right, good. And nothing more with master plan at this point in time, so I think that's probably all that I have of any significance at this point in time.
Okay, I'll be brief as well, since I've not had any meetings since our last Select Board meeting. However, on July 1st, this Thursday, the Personnel Policies and Procedure Board will be meeting at 6 o'clock via Zoom. And on July 6th, which is next Tuesday, I believe, the Bylaws Ad hoc Review Committee will be meeting via Zoom at 1:30. And I have nothing else to report there. All right, so Chris, do you want to go with your?
Yep, the ad hoc grants committee?
Yes,
Yep.
please.
We're still busy working. We seem to be meeting almost weekly these days. We're waiting in great anticipation to find out about the award from the Shared Streets and Shared Spaces program through the Department of Transportation. We should be hearing about that, I'm thinking, within the coming week, and that was for a section of sidewalk, basically connecting the sidewalk from downtown, right at the High Street corner, to the existing sidewalk at Palmer Meadow Party Patrol area. So this is essentially about a 900-foot strip of sidewalk in front of the cemetery to complete that walkable path, essentially from the school and farther north down to the center of town in Conant Park. So with a little luck, we will be successful there. We're currently working on an application with the Parks Commission, and we'll be having a joint meeting with Parks Commission tomorrow evening here at Town Hall. We were going to do it at Conant Park, but it seems like there might be a rainstorm in our future, we hope, in some ways. given this heat. So we'll be meeting here in the break room probably at around 6 o'clock and 6:15-ish for the grant committee will join them to talk about the park's ideas for expanding and more improvement rather than expanding, but expanding facilities and improving facilities at Conant Park, so we can try to get a grant application completed for them, with them. And then lastly, there was an interview as part of the process with a grant application that the Council on Aging had put forth to Highland Valley Elder Services, and that interview happened this week, and that went very well. So we've got that one that we're going to be waiting on as well. That one we won't know anything until September. So that's about it, I think, at this point.
Thank you. Lots of good things going on with that committee. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions about what we've discussed so far? Okay, thank you. Ed, Town Administrator report?
Sure, I just have a few items, so I'll be brief. And because of COVID, our annual audit has been delayed a little bit, but have been able to get our auditing firm remote access to our files and to SoftWrite. So I will follow up with Melanson Heath on Thursday just to identify what specifically they will be able to get out of the files remotely, and what they still need from us to provide physically. So I will follow up with them on that, and hopefully now that things are opened up and that they do have the remote access, we'll be able to complete our audit in the next month.
So they had already started on that, though, had they not?
Yes, they had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would they come here to do anything now?
Yeah, they will come in for probably a day or two now that the COVID is over with.
Do we have any target completion date? Are we subject to anything, given the state reports we have to submit and so forth?
Not for the state reports, no. Those have all been, any required state reports have been filed.
But to any funding, well, not funding sources, any banks, any?
The only thing will be to finalize the audit and get the results to a rating agency.
Okay.
Yep. And then we still have some laptops to deploy to the department heads. Wally actually was here last week, and they were going to do 4 of them, but they had some technical issues. So I'm working with Wally now on a couple of days in July to get some dates to finish that assignment and the deployment of those laptops. They should be able to do about 4 a day, and we have 8 left. So as soon as we have that, I'll let you know. And then I would also like to congratulate Vulcan LLC Dreamers for their opening. They did have a soft opening, and they had their grand opening a couple of Saturdays ago, and it was a very nice event. The weather did cooperate for until later in the evening, which was just about the time that they were finishing their grand opening, but it was nice with the food trucks and the band for the festivities. So, and congratulations to the new business in town.
Yes.
Just one thing, I didn't mention that the tech committee, the ad hoc tech committee is meeting tomorrow night via Zoom at 7 o'clock, I believe.
Okay, thank you. All right, we don't have any quarterly reports scheduled, so let's move on to old business. The accountant position, is there an update?
We have a couple of new applicants that we'll go over and probably interview both of them. And I know that Francine, you've also been reaching out to some of the CPA firms with the possibility, if we did have to hire a firm to be our town accountant, and then have an assistant town accountant working under that.
Right. To the one individual, I called and left a voicemail to see if they were available for an interview next Tuesday. So hopefully I'll hear back from him and we can go on.
All right.
And hopefully we'll have a second candidate that
Yes.
same day. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, once we were able to move that advertisement up in Indeed, it's gotten some new life to it, so it's good to see.
Okay. All right, the assistant accountant position?
Have not had much activity on that at all, and have not had any new applicants since the last select board meeting.
Okay. We did have that interview with one candidate on
Yes.
June 22nd.
Yep.
A candidate, and we said that we would get back to her in the hopes that we might receive other applications that we could consider. But we've communicated since that interview, and she remains interested in the position, which
Good.
is good to hear. All right, Route 10 Bridge.
The contractor is moving along. They seem to have made some good progress. They seem to be on track. Their, original estimation was 90 calendar days or 50 work days. They actually did begin around probably mid-May. If they keep going the way they have been, they may finish a little bit early, which would be nice. So originally, by the 90-day piece, it would have been mid-August. So hopefully they keep up the good work and making the progress that they have been.
Good. All right, next update on the East Street Bridge.
And actually, that'll go down into the start of the new business. VHB has evaluated the 3 low bidders, and we will be looking to award the street bridge bid officially to and sign the contracts for that work with MIG Construction.
Good. That's great. We have that in our packet.
Yes.
Okay.
MIT Construction
MIG.
Corporation.
Corporation.
Is it construction or corporation?
On the letter, it says corporation.
It would be corporation then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And do we want to talk about, just to refresh our mind on the amount and timeframes, et cetera?
Yes.
You want to jump ahead, so I have to look at the
Yeah, that's-
contract. I mean, I can come up with the first parts of it. $2,037,000, I think it's $466.51 or something like that.
426.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
$2,037,426.
there we go. And substantial completion is required by May 2nd, 2022, and ready for final payment by June 23rd, 2022. And I will remind everyone that this is basically, I'll call it a split project. We did receive $1 million in a Mass Works grant to go towards this, and then the town voters accepted and approved a $1.6 million debt exclusion to do this project, which is I know the town has been trying to do for longer than a number of years, so it'll be once, shall we say, the disruption of taking the bridge down and having it out of service for about a year, and it's back up and working, it will be well worth it. And then, now that the bridge is designed and awarded, the work has begun to be started on the design of the East Street road work from Route 10 to the bridge, and then also from the bridge to County Road for the actual road work.
That's very long-awaited good news for
Yes.
for everyone.
Yeah.
I know a year sounds like a long time, but unfortunately, that's what the construction takes, but looking forward to it. And
Yeah, and then I'll let everybody know that there's about $150,000 out of Chapter 90 funds, which are planned to do an overlay on some of the real bad sections of East Street as a, shall we say, temporary repair until we get to the point of having the full design and being on the tip to do those two sections.
Will that happen before the construction on the bridge starts?
It depends on when the contractor is available to do it, so.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll be done before or, or during the construction on the bridge, so.
Okay.
And will the design work for East Street itself take place during the bulk of the year, or is that how long a process does that usually take to?
That'll probably take a couple of years just to do the, yeah, because you'll actually do it to 25%. You'll get Mass DOT's comments back on that, then you'll do it to 75% and have another public hearing, take into account the comments then, and then go to 100% and put it out to bid.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Okay.
I think it helps to have, timelines and just realistic expectations. I mean, I think that's where some of our frustrations have been, especially people that travel East Street on a regular basis. It's hard to manage some of these bigger construction projects that we just don't really have control over. They're, in the hands of the state or others to kind of schedule, so.
Well, it's surprising when you get into some of these bigger projects because, yes, you've got the design work, number one. If you are using state funding or if it's coming from the TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, which is both state and federal funding, the state has to, weigh in on it also, the Mass Department of Transportation. And then depending on the areas you're going through is, you may need comments from, other state agencies. You might need comments back, and part of it has to go through your own Conservation Commission, but it might have to go through historical.
Natural heritage.
And like I say, just depending on, and obviously the further you're going, the more chances you have of impacting some of those areas. So each step in itself is a, shall we say, process.
Yeah. So right now, East Street itself is not on the tip list yet.
Actually, it's not on the tip list. It's on, shall we say, the pre-tip list. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And we're trying to keep it there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, the next item is the contract for the stormwater MS4 permit. It's with tie and bond. The amount of the contract is $25,100. Ed, you want to talk about that?
Correct. This would be for fiscal year '22, and it's the required work that Tie and Bond will do for us through our highway department to maintain and keep our MS4 stormwater permit up to date with the state of Massachusetts. So this is the required work that we have to do in our next steps in that process. And I would ask that the select board authorize myself to be able to sign that contract with Tie and Bond to move it forward.
Okay.
And is the 25,100, is that for the 1 year, is that right?
Correct. All the tasks that will occur in fiscal year '22.
Okay.
Motion to authorize the town administrator to sign on our behalf.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Ed, you have the job.
Thank you.
All right. The next item is follow-up discussion on the special election ballot questions. Ed, do you want to start with that? I mean, I think most people know the outcome.
Yes, there were 3 questions on the special election ballot. The first was the operating budget override, Proposition 2.5 override, requesting $718,000 and some change be added to the base budget. That question, number 1, failed. Question number 2 was for the acquisition and borrowing through a debt exclusion of a replacement dump truck and plow, single axle, for the highway department, which would have cost $261,000. That debt exclusion question failed. The town, through the select board, will have another opportunity to look at possible ways of funding that. May want to bring it back at the special town meeting. Obviously, we would be able to authorize the borrowing of that vehicle without a debt exclusion, which would just take a town meeting vote. It would be a 2/3 vote at the town meeting. Some other ways is may look at the possibility of leasing that vehicle over a number of years. Probably my preference would be to take a look at bringing it back as just a regular borrowing, but we will have to look at over what the useful life of that vehicle is. Seem to remember it's probably like 11 or 12 years. It could be a little bit longer. And how that would impact our debt, both principal and interest that we currently have, and our operating budget overall. Let's see if we can make it fit. Yeah.
All right. I just want to mention...
And then question number 3 was the debt exclusion vote for the acquisition of the right-of-way for the Greenway, which is the bike path, which would connect us to Easthampton's bike path and would be a start to moving south, and at some point hopefully being able to connect to Westfields. That one did pass. It was a $270,000 question. We have received a $100,000 grant to go towards that, and originally the agreement letter with the Pioneer Valley Railroad was the purchase price of the acquisition, the right-of-way was $345,000, and the our estimate for legal costs and other permitting costs was about $25,000. So that's what we came up with the $370, and the balance was that ballot question of $270,000. So we will look at actually starting the process of reaching out to the railroad and getting everything started and renewed from that original agreement letter, which is from, I think, late 2018, I think.
18, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Now, there's state funding available to us to actually do the construction in the amount of about $6 million, am I correct?
I believe it's fiscal year 25, there's $6 million on the tip for the construction of our portion of the, which we call the Greenway, the bikeway and pedestrian path, and that's why we're moving forward towards that date.
At least this shows the state that we are trying to
Moving
do
along.
something. I mean, if we were not showing any movement on this, I mean, we would lose those tip funds, as far as I'm
Exactly.
Right.
And the town has applied for other grant funding, which we won't know probably until August or September,
To offset the 270?
to offset the 270.
Good.
Correct.
That's good news to hear.
Yeah.
All right, good. I just wanted to briefly go over, some of the challenges now that the voters accepted the balanced budget and not the override, and just, some kind of expectations of what we might be facing in the coming year. And I'll just go through it, quickly and just name a few points per department. But looking at, in the area of general government, there could be an impact on on our ability to upgrade and maintain town hall technology and its services. We are facing perhaps insufficient funds to conduct a special audit that's needed to verify the use of the federal grants that we're getting through the CARES Act and through the American Rescue Act. And then a reduction in the maintenance of town hall plumbing, electrical, and septic systems, and repairs to the building and parking masonry. And that's just a couple of things for town hall. We look at the highway department, and what they're going to experience is a reduction in the equipment replacement for maintaining roads, sidewalks, and mowing. Reduction in road machinery expenses will impact the ability of having equipment repaired when it was needed, which ultimately could delay some road work and plowing and mowing going on. And then there's a reduction in the winter road wages, which would limit the number of hours available for cleaning and snow removal, for clearing and snow removal. And then the other next would be what's happening to Norris School. I don't have the specifics, except that I know that some existing positions will be eliminated, as well as any expectation of hiring new people for the personnel for the school. It eliminates planned increases in hours for existing staff to meet student needs this next year, reduces hours of some current staff, and eliminates the much-needed technology support, curriculum, and classroom supplies. As far as the impact on the police department, insufficient funding to maintain TASER certification for part of the year, not all of the year. Insufficient funding to replace 12 outdated ballistic vests for police officers, and insufficient funding to support mobile data terminals in the police cruisers. As far as the library goes, they're going to have to apply for a waiver in order to receive accreditation, and if that waiver is denied, they will lose state funding in the amount of $10,500, and we will be ineligible for any further state or federal grants. The implications for library patrons is that they will be prohibited from using other libraries and borrowing advantages at other libraries, because we would now be not part of that library system. The library will continue to be closed on Mondays, and it looks like they're going to be unable to hire substitutes, which would impact the services and possibly cause additional closures. And then looking at what the impact is going to be on the fire and ambulance, shortfalls in wages to cover shifts, trucks may not be properly maintained, which would require that equipment would be replaced earlier, costing more in the long term rather than short-term replacement. And then looking toward increasing in the cost of supplies that they need and not having sufficient funds to pay. So this is what we as a select board and what department heads and committees are going to be working on. How do we manage under these conditions? And we have to make it work, because that was the vote. And so this is our job, and we'll do it. Just want to let people know what to expect. Okay, thank you. COVID-19 update. Ed?
We are COVID-19, while the numbers are going down, we have basically followed the removal of the state of emergency declared by the governor, and the removal of all the COVID-19 conditions. Due to that, we have opened up town hall. We have still to regular business hours, which are Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 4 p.m. Some committees have started to have in-person meetings again instead of relying on Zoom. The legislature has approved the extension of Zoom through April of 2022 for committees that still wish to use it. However, we are still maintaining some shall we say, additional facility precautions here in the town hall and in other municipal buildings. While masks are not required, they are welcome. We have kept the plexiglass acrylic barriers up in the offices because they not only protect from any future COVID-19 infections, but also help during cold and flu season. We have maintained our, shall we say, expanded cleaning and disinfecting schedule here in Town Hall, and we still have plenty of personal protective equipment, masks, gloves, sanitizer available to the staff. So, but it is nice to be open to the public again.
Well, let's hope we don't have to dip into that supply again. Okay,
Knock on wood.
thank you. All right, on the CARES Act?
Yes, and we do have till basically the end of December to actually expend our CARES Act grant funding. There are items that were ordered initially through the CARES Act grant, but just due to supplies, the supply chain have not arrived yet, but will arrive over the next several months. So when we do get them and or install them, we are still subject to receiving reimbursement on that, and Christine and I are currently working on the list of items that departments were authorized to purchase, have purchased, and are looking at, shall we say, alternative ways to, for funds that it looks like were originally approved for one use that aren't going to be used for that, to be authorized to use for other uses between now and the end of the year.
Okay. Chris, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think I've got to catch up on like the last warrant that was done to make sure I've got all the invoices captured, but I've got some, I know I got from fire department some invoices that I was missing that had been submitted early on in the fiscal year or at the end of last fiscal year, so I'm working on reconciling those with my file, but I will get back to all the departments with the latest version of anything I've seen and let them know, basically from our figures, what it looks like they might have left, and then they need to be able to sit down with Ed and talk about how there might be a way to reprogram that, and maybe there might be some other needs that they have that would still fit. I mean, it's a challenge, I think, as we move farther out of COVID per se, how to make those justifications is a little bit tougher to do, I think, but not impossible maybe. So definitely in the next couple weeks, I think before our next meeting, people will definitely know what they have as their balance and can sit down and talk about it.
That'll help them.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Next up is the American Rescue Act, and we have some good news. I'll let Ed share it.
Well, we received our first installment of the American Rescue Act. I did put in our submission once the state made it clear that even though they said within the state receiving their funds that the non-entitlement communities would receive their portion of those funds within 30 days, they did make us fill out an application. We have. And interesting enough, because none of the information I saw originally on it said that they were going to break the $645,000 we're eligible for down into 2 different installments, but we have received the first installment for that. Jennifer Day confirmed that today. So we do have those funds in hand for the first part of them to use over fiscal year '22. So that's good news. It's still kind of, shall we say, a struggle to find out directly what our potential uses may be for fiscal year '22. We do know clearly that We can use them for infrastructure projects such as water or sewer improvements or broadband improvements in certain situations. It did come out last week that, we know that one of the things that we are going through with the Police Reform Act is that there would be additional training required for the members of our police department. State has confirmed that one of the approved uses for ARPA would be for that additional police training, so we will look at doing that. And from my understanding, there seems to still be a pocket that may be used for, shall we say, remote technology or remote learning technology. So we'll look at that pocket too, and as more information comes out, we'll see if we have anything that fits into those pockets also. But actually a lot of it seems to be directed towards some of the things that we did probably as a small area with the CARES Act, is that they seem to be making funding, pushing a lot of this funding towards whether it is rental or housing, shall we say, help, business help, and employer help. So, like I say, as more details come out, we'll see what seems to make sense for us here in Southampton.
And there's two pots of money, right? There's one sort of for Southampton, but then there was another pot, if I understood it, there was for more of a county pot, but we're not part of the county association.
We don't have a county.
Right.
So what they did with
The association of the county that, or whatever,
No.
that exists, yeah.
No. So what they did was they took a look at, and each state is different, but there are pockets of money for the state, there are pockets of money that was going to be distributed to communities through county government. But they realized that there are communities that don't have county government, so the communities that did not have county government were going to get their money, shall we say, directly, just depending on if you were in an entitlement community or a non-entitlement community, which we are.
We are.
Yeah, exactly. So different pots, just depending on how it's distributed.
But that might be the second year money, or is that this year money too?
No, there's well, the one thing that they did make clear, although they still haven't told us what we're eligible for what would be, I got to be careful how I say second installment, but basically the funds were to be distributed over 2 fiscal years.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
22 and 23. However, the funding from all of that can be spread over 4 fiscal years. You don't have to spend it over 2. So, and now what they've done somehow is they've decided to take whatever your allocation was that you were going to receive in fiscal year 22, they have taken that, in our case, it's $645,000 and some change, and split it into 2 installments. And they still haven't told us when to expect the second installment. So,
Okay.
again, more to come.
Yep.
But that number originally, we heard, was 1.8 million, but that was that would have been the county.
That included the county
Is that
money, I
right?
think.
We don't have a county. So
I know,
that's-
we don't have a county.
That's
so
what the federal
Is this
gov-
all
that-
we're going to get is the 645?
That's what the federal government estimated that Southampton would receive in ARPA, the federal government.
Right.
But that was over the 2 fiscal years. So now the question will be, we will receive $645,000 for fiscal year 22. Does that mean that we will receive 1.2 in fiscal year 23?
Yes.
carry us out over the remainder of those 4 fiscal years. They haven't confirmed what that second dollar amount is. They've confirmed that there is another payment for fiscal year '23 out there, but they have not confirmed the dollar amount on that
But
yet.
it's not, so far, it's not lost. We just
So far, it's not lost, we just don't know
don't know. All right.
if they're going to pull the funny figures on us or whatever. So, yes, it is not lost as of yet.
It's not in our bank account, though.
Well, the 300 will be in our bank account,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah, well, we've
Yeah.
got 300 and some change in our bank account from the first part.
so a
but-
little bit different than the CARES Act approach, right? Because the CARES Act, we didn't physically get the money first.
Actually, well, we didn't get it first, but actually, believe it or not, we did get the 2 installments after they
Oh, did they finally?
approved our 2 phases, so,
okay.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, so for Phase 1, we got it pretty quick.
Yeah.
For Phase 2, when it took them over a month to work with us to get to the final point of, accepting everything and asking us to take out from our request the items that they were denying,
Yeah.
once they said yes to that, we did get that second
get that,
installment shortly after it.
but here they've given us an upfront amount without having any real specificity from us.
Well, the only specificity, yeah, it's different.
In terms of how it would be used.
Right, because
Yeah.
originally with the CARES Act, you had to tell them how
Right.
you anticipated using it, and they would tell you if that fit the categories or not.
Yeah.
In this particular one, and I think a lot has to do with the fact that the federal government put in that requirement that once the state received the money and funding, they had 30 days to get it to us. So in this particular one, they basically put the onus on us to say, oh, we've got the money, we're going to spend it how we're supposed to. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Any other questions for that? All right, moving on then to the next item, which is departmental transfers in the amount of $35,939.56.
Yes, and this is the third installment of the end of the year, May and June departmental transfers. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's 8 of them on this sheet totaling $35,939.56. The first one is to EMS wages from EMT standby wages in the amount of $6,250. The second one is into ambulance maintenance, totaling a deficit of $1,629.15. There are 2 accounts that we're requesting funding be transferred from into there. The first is EMT licensing in the amount of $1,202. The second is EMS expense in the amount of $427.15. The third one is fire truck maintenance, which is $8,241.31 in deficit, and it's coming from 2 different accounts. One is fire department expense of $5,000, and the second is fire EMS building maintenance, $3,241.31. The next one is into fire chief salary in the amount of $3,300 from fire wages, and that is for the retroactivity due to signing the new 3-year contract with the fire chief. The next one is the water expense account, which is a anticipated deficit of $10,000 from the water capital account of $10,000, and this is due to the amount of water we have had to purchase from Easthampton this year over what was anticipated. The next one is town accountant expense, $5,999.10 coming from town accountant salary, and this will cover the remainder of the balance of the fiscal year because we're using a vendor to supply our interim town accountant rather than it being a direct employee. The next one is Board of Health expenses, putting $500 into the Board of Health expenses from the Sharps program. And the last one is internet service to the town hall. That account will be $20 in deficit at the end of the fiscal year, and that's coming from administrative expenses of $20, and that's due to Charter Spectrum increasing the cost of that service $10 a month starting in May. So you got May and June.
Okay, thank you. All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second for discussion.
Okay. All right. Questions, discussion? John?
Yes. A couple, just some observations, but I'm interested in any number that's perfectly round. So the water purchase from Easthampton was just a flat $10,000, spot on, not a penny, not a dollar, but 10 grand.
That's what, yes, that's what they anticipated, because we're still drawing from them to the end of the year, so that was their anticipated amount.
Okay. And then the, just so I understand this, so the only other one is the EMS wages. So it is possible to overstaff and not have adequate funds in your line item? And then increase, I get the shortfall in an expense because the bill comes in a little higher on that, but on payroll, it is possible to do it, or only at the end of the year with someone's approval?
It is, and because of the fact that basically EMS and fire are not staffed separately, it's really the payroll accounts that are charged are basically by the calls that come in. So from year to year, we don't know in advance of how many EMS calls we're going to have with how many people, or fire calls. So
If they go on a fire call, the money comes out of one line. If they go on an ambulance call, the money's coming out of the other line.
the EMS, right,
The cumulative amount of money is the same.
is the same, correct. So we balance up at the end of the year.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
So just following up on the water account, so with that money transferred out, the water capital expenses would still, looks like they would still have quite a balance left, though. And would that end up just being free cash, going into free cash at the end of the year, maybe, or something like that?
Well, be careful how you say, be careful how you say free cash, because in this particular case, it's an enterprise fund, so it doesn't flow to
Doesn't
free
go to the
cash,
general.
it flows to retained
Right,
earnings.
sorry, yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
So I guess, is this, I know, this is for the last fiscal year, so a lot of this water utilization could have occurred last summer.
Well,
We're just starting this summer.
Well, it could have occurred, theoretically, it could have occurred anywhere from July 1st, 2020 through
To now.
June 30th, 2021. However, most of it, from my understanding of talking with Tom, has occurred so far this year for two reasons. The heat. We have, over the last probably, 6 or 8 weeks, gone back into a drought and had the water restrictions on, but they also had some equipment failure at the well as far as pumping goes. So while they were repairing that, they couldn't pump what they normally would. So they've been buying extra, more than they normally would from Easthampton.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No.
Okay, so let's move to take a vote here. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye, unanimous, thank you. The next item is the MVP update, Municipal Vulnerability Program. Thank you. And I know they had broadcast something last week, and I missed it. and my understanding it was recorded on YouTube, so I'm hoping still to track it down and to see it. But Ed, could you bring us up to date?
It's on the website, yes, and we did do the formal public listening session last Thursday evening, and that was the last step in our MVP process. Anyone that had any comments after that sent them on to Sarah or myself. Sarah was packaging up everything today to send it off to the state, both to meet our municipal vulnerability planning requirements and to be named an MVP community, and the necessary paperwork, not the financial part, but everything else that's required for our grant reimbursement, which we did this program under. So this one is now complete and on its way to the state.
Okay.
So can we, as we apply for grants, consider ourselves an MVP community or not yet?
Not until the state says we are.
So that may be weeks, months?
Could be 2 weeks, could be a month, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, good to know.
As long as it gives us an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
does.
question, and some of these grants, especially state grants, they look for the open space and recreation plan update, as well as whether you're an MVP community, et cetera. So might give us an extra leg up sometimes. Good.
Okay. All right, I see I skipped over the revenue and expenditure reports. The revenue report is through April 30th, 2021. The expense report is through June 17th, 2021. You want to start with the revenue? Any questions?
Is it traditional?
Comments?
Yeah, is it traditional for it to be this far behind? Or maybe this is it because of the accounting position being open?
Well, I can answer that 2 ways. We are usually probably a couple months behind traditionally. However, this has been a, very, shall we say, unusual year, both due to COVID and the accounting position. So actually the revenue report was probably non-existent up until about the end of December. So it's now catching up again.
All right.
And so far, other than probably the investments, which I think we had estimated at $20,000, and I think there's $7,000 in that account through the end of April. Other than that, the other accounts I'm looking at, I'm not really seeing anything, that would shock me as far as looking at saying, ooh, this is going to be either short or significantly short in the last 2 months.
That was going to be my follow-up question, because it's showing a negative free cash of 1.6 million, but if you pull in the state revenue and the taxes to come in, that's 1.2, so
Right.
you'd think that other 400,000 is in there.
Yes, I do.
Somewhere.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that was going to be a follow-up question. So with the on the real estate taxes, we're showing 648,000 still out there, but this would have been through April 30th, so that would have been right before that last tax bill was due, is that right?
Which was May 1st.
May-ish,
May 1st.
right?
Right.
Right, so
Yeah.
we would hopefully have collected the majority of that, and that would make this deficit look a little bit better.
Correct.
So we'll know how much of that. We've been doing fairly well at tax collecting, so we
Yes, we
shouldn't
have.
have any really big worries about that.
No.
I'm trying to remember too, and just to refresh all our brains, when do we actually get some of the state aid on the school and on highway? When does that come in? What is it, at the end of the year normally, or through the year, or?
It's actually a little bit different for each of those. And basically, probably the easier way to answer is unrestricted government aid and Chapter 70 aid, which is the school aid, comes in monthly. Yeah, okay. So it is like clockwork, unless you've done something wrong as a community and are being penalized.
Which, for the record, we are not. right?
Correct,
Would that be-
absolutely not. Absolutely, that's why it's come in like clockwork, yeah. Yeah, Chapter 90, which is basically I'll call it road aid, does come in, it comes in, we get our allocation at pretty much at the beginning of the year, but then there is a process as far as, shall we say, spending that money. You don't just go out and spend it like you want to and take it from that account. You basically, the highway superintendent puts together a plan, and the first thing that he or she has to do is actually request an authorization from Mass DOT that here's the project, here's what I want to do, and here's how it's broken out, and here's the money, and Mass DOT has to accept that. I don't say they have to accept it, but they do have to approve it. And they can't say, no, this doesn't meet the requirements. And then the next step is, once you have that approval, is you would go out and basically contract to do that work, and then you request your, basically those funds, reimbursement from the state for that.
Okay. I just took a peek when I saw what we were getting from the state for charter tuition reimbursement. They're giving us like $37,500. And when I looked at the expense report, I saw that we spent $118,000. Is that all we're going to get against the $118,000? Does anybody know?
For the charter reimbursement?
Yeah.
It will usually flow from the cherry sheet, so I'll have to go back and take a look at
Okay.
what's there.
All right, because that's a huge chunk. That's, all righty. All right, that was the revenue. Any more questions on the revenue report?
No.
Okay, how about the expense report that ends mid-June here, through mid-June? So as far as payroll, half of the last payroll for this period is in this fiscal year, and the other half is in next fiscal year, is that right? Or number of days or something?
That's simplifying it. It's actually the number of days. So
Okay.
you've got 1 week plus Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Four days that'll fall into fiscal year '21, then you have 3 days
3
which
days
fall
of the
into
other.
fiscal
Okay.
year '22.
All right. So just looking and making sure that there's enough money in there. Okay. All right, any other questions on the expense report?
Yeah, no, and just, I know with some of the salary issues, since you mentioned that, we had, I think it was both library and fire folks that we had put up to the minimum wage, the $13.50. Have they started, did they put in their paperwork to get that paid out?
The library has,
Just
the
remember-
COA has. I will have to check on fire,
Because that was retroactive, wasn't it, till
Correct.
January?
Yeah.
So that needs to be on this coming,
if it hasn't been,
if it
correct.
hasn't been
Yeah.
already, yeah. So I was just wondering if that was,
And we have until when to continue to do these transfers? The middle of July? These year-end transfers?
Yeah, it goes up to July 15th, I believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just one question on the expenses general fund. Where is it? Prior year encumbered expenses. It looks like there's still $23,000. Is that encumbered from 20 or 19 or 18? And it's
20. And I'm actually, I will admit that I was the first interim accountant here. I will admit that I'm going to have to go back through some of those because I think there are some that ended up getting actually charged to the account rather than the encumbrance.
So we might be able to alleviate that,
Yes,
right? And then it would show up in free cash certification. Yep.
correct.
Where were you seeing that, John? Sorry.
That's page 4 of the expenses.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Where are you?
$23,668.
All right. Anything else?
And,
John, I'll just let you know because probably one of the biggest ones in here is we receive both net metering credits and cow power credits.
Yep.
Those credits show up on our Eversource bill. However, we receive separate invoices from the companies that supply the cow power and the net metering credits on those. And those are charged to the town hall gas and electric. That's why that is so far under, because I have to go back through and figure out the correct journal entry process to take those out and put them back into the correct accounts. So I'll save you finding that and asking the question.
and that ties into the street lighting one too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although a street lighting one, it looks like they just did get shut off, so.
And any other major purchases we're going to do in the next day? I guess, and now that I say that, today's the 29th, isn't it?
Not that I am directly aware of, shall we say.
Just realized we've only got one day left. Oh, my goodness. No, I mean, you know me, I'm always looking for money for the technology folks, so that's all. We have a little bit left in technology equipment, I think, right?
There's a little bit left, and I actually just found another $157 because I found that I not only paid the library Zoom account by mistake, that I, instead of paying it from the CARES Act funds, I actually paid it from the IT either equipment or services account.
Okay. And were there any other desktops or anything going to be purchased throughout this, or did we do that already? I forgot.
I did that already,
Okay,
at least for this fiscal year.
yeah, okay.
There's some others that'll come from that account next fiscal year, but
Okay, then, we'll move on. Next item, open space and recreation plan update.
And that last chart has been completed. Ken has all the comments, changes, whatever, and he was packaging that up to send it along to the state. So that process is now complete also.
Super.
Okay,
Good, good.
good. So that means that comes off our list.
Comes off the list.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
Yep.
All right, did we cover everything with the Greenway update, or is there more?
We probably did. Like I say, the next steps will be just to start the process of the legal work and reaching back out to Pioneer Valley Railroad to start that process of the acquisition of the right-of-way, and then along the road, because it is, that section is a rail banking agreement. There will be some shall we say, permits and approvals from state agencies along the way that go along with that.
And I think originally, way back, I don't know how many years ago, but when this started and had some momentum at one point and then stalled a bit, but there had been a lot of work done on title searches and all that kind of stuff from what I've seen in some of the records that I was looking through. So it sounds like some of that will work. We just need to bring it forward again. And
Yeah, and now that the COVID restrictions have been removed, it'll be actually easier because I know with, for KP Law, when I had asked some of those questions when we were applying for the grant, that Katie remembered some of the points and whatever, and she knew, the sequence, basically, of the events and the permits that we need to get and follow. All those records were back in their Boston office, and they were all working from home.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
good.
All right, that's it for that. Now, we have a couple of other items that I don't believe can wait until our July 13th meeting. One is the extension of committee liaison assignments until the next meeting, when we're all here and we can decide among ourselves who is going to represent the select board in these other committees where we have liaison relationships. So
Correct, and especially the two of the three
Right.
remaining, shall we say, appointments, which really aren't liaison, they are actually have voting rights. So those select board members are getting actually appointed to those committees.
Right.
And one of the members, which happens to be for capital, is no longer here, so that one cannot be extended to July 13th, but I don't see capital meeting. But there are two that, one definitely will, I don't know if the other will or not. One is PPPB, which I know, Francine, you are the appointed select board member to that committee with voting rights, and the other is Community Preservation Committee, which I believe is you. Is that you too?
Yeah.
Okay, that one's you too, Francine. So yes, I do strongly suggest that the board vote to extend not only the liaison, shall we say, assignments to July 13th, 2021, but also specifically the appointment of Francine Tishman to the PPPB and to the Community Preservation Committee until July 13th, 2021.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I'll make that
Do I have a
motion.
motion?
Second.
All right, Chris, second, John. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And there was one other
Yes, the
community health grant.
The community health grant, which I just received this afternoon, but it does require not only the chair of the Board of Health, but the authorization and the signature of the chair of the select board, and in this case for tonight, that would transgress to the vice chair. That Southampton does have the ability through a shared community grant, which Northampton would be the lead community in, which would give us some, shall we say, what I think are very appropriate and probably win-win scenarios of services and access possibly to a public health nurse. And I won't go into the long synopsis that Jerry Swanson provided me with, but I'll read a short one. The Northampton Health Department will serve as lead coordinator for a Hampshire County-wide collaborative of local health departments, LHDs, to provide LHDs access to timely data and appropriate public health response to assist with infectious disease management and surveillance by expanding a shared health information exchange, HIE database, and shared public health nurse, PHN, services. NHD will improve regional data surveillance and communication of communicable disease occurrence in bordering communities by expanding NHD's HIE for MAVEN data acquisition, allowing for cross-municipal data collection and notification of reportable diseases. To accomplish this, the HIE workflow will populate regular queries to provide LHDs with data analysis, reports, and data maps. To provide coordinated public health nursing services, NHD will coordinate a rapid response framework of shared public health nursing response for timely containment of outbreaks by LHDs for non-COVID-19 MAVEN duties and responsibilities. This outbreak management of infectious diseases will require ongoing monitoring, case investigation, and follow-up care by the shared PHN. Additionally, the PHN will provide uniform messaging and outreach to under-resourced communities utilizing an emergency preparedness trailer for community education screening. NHD's Protect team includes Meredith O'Leary, NHD's director, J. Sherry Sullivan, project coordinator, Kate Kelly and Vivian Franklin, public health nurses, plus 2 addition PHN to be hired. Lauren Davin, Public Health Preparedness Coalition, Austin Sanders, Regional Database Project Manager, a Technology Implementation Manager currently hiring, and a contracted epidemiologist. The majority of the grant award will pay for the salaries of 2 full-time public health nurse positions, an epidemiologist providing 3 to 5 hours a month of data analysis, and contracting with a software developer to construct and provide a secure database portal access to our community partners. So, this does have to, my apologies for the lateness, I didn't get it till today, but it does need to be signed and back to Northampton by July 9th, which is before the next scheduled board meeting. So I would ask that the board approve this and authorize Francine Tishman to sign it on behalf of the board.
And is this, they don't mention the towns here, but I gather this is really all of Hampshire County? That's,
I don't know if it's all of Hampshire County, but it's, yeah, a good number of towns that would participate in
I guess, all of the towns in Hampshire County that would have a Board of Health. Is that probably it?
No, that chose to, shall we say,
Chose to participate in it?
chose to participate, correct.
So I'll make the motion so we can have discussion.
I'll second.
I guess 2 full-time nurses and epidemiologist for 3 to 5 hours is, round numbers, probably $100,000 and $125,000, and it's for 3 to 4 years, is what I read. I guess, do you have the numbers? Is there any match required by us?
None.
Okay.
None at this time.
I didn't see any,
That's the way I look at, I'll be honest with you, and you've seen it as probably more than I have, John, but yeah, these are good starts. I think that we will find that it's a, worthwhile program. The question is always, okay, when do they, in successive years, maybe stop funding the grant, and how do you pick that up? But I think we're seeing that. To me, it's a step in the right direction. Personally, I think Southampton would benefit from some type of not only public health nurse, and data tracking, but I think the area could benefit in the future from a public health district.
No, I like the concept. I'm just concerned that I don't see a dollar amount in here.
Yeah.
Or to Chris's point, how many communities are doing it. And then with the late hour, which I'm sure is just a matter of timing and how things go, trying to get things done before the end of the year. But
Well, I'm sure it's that, and I've also, over the years, come to the, shall we say, conclusion that a lot of these, whether they're state or federal or whatever, purposely short-term that announcement to when they're due, only to cut down on some of the applications too, but.
Yeah, it was a little confusing as I was reading it in terms of, they talked about Northampton submitting the grant proposal for this public health excellence program, and then they went on to describe it, but it wasn't clear to me whether the grant has already been awarded or not, and how much it is. And that's what I was trying to figure that out from what I was reading here.
Yeah, and I got a kick out of it today when, I'm looking at the document and saying, okay, well, it doesn't have to be signed until July 31st, because that's what's on here. And
Right.
But that's when it's got to be back to the granting agency, and Northampton needs them back before that, which is the July 9th date, so.
Okay.
Well, I think, and in terms of shared data, I think it will plug a lot of holes. I know there were questions that we couldn't answer this year because we didn't have a way of retrieving the information. So I'm really happy to see that the system improvement is going to be in place, and this is going to be information that can be shared on a town-by-town basis. So I think that's great. But they do stipulate in here that the funds can, under this program, only to augment rather than replace current municipal funding for public health services or staff. So,
Yeah, and
not going to be seeing anything.
And there are, times and pieces that come up that I think that the public health nurse in infectious diseases can be a plus to Southampton. When I was in Beckett over a number of years, I can remember, and I think it was positive tuberculosis cases had come up a couple of times, but we did not, as part of our health program, have a public health nurse on staff, but we were able to partake and through the Berkshire Public Health Association, which was part of Berkshire Planning, be able to hire them for their services to do the tracking of those particular types of cases when something occurred within the community there, so.
Okay. All right.
So just one question, when they talk about the letter of support, so that's what this essentially is the letter of support that they need?
That's my understanding, yes.
In order to be part of it, we need a letter of support, see attached.
Yeah, that's these
It's this one,
that we have to
The one
sign.
the one that Kate has signed.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And looking at her signature, I'm thinking that must be 6/24 rather than, that must be June 24.
That's what I'm guessing, too.
Yeah, it looked like a October, it looked like a 10, but I
Yeah.
think it's a 6, yeah, so that's fine.
Yes, you're right. I think
I saw
the
that.
loop
Yeah, I
of the
think so, yeah,
6
the loop, yeah.
is on the
Yeah.
line. You're right.
Yeah.
That's the way it is written there. So,
Good.
yeah, okay, no, I think
Okay.
this makes sense.
All right, anything else on it?
No.
So with that, all in favor of authorizing me to sign the municipal statement of commitment for the Public Health Excellence Grants Program?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. And here we go. Okay, is there any other necessary business? They can't wait.
Fine, sign. Don't worry about this one. That was just your copy.
Okay. All right, I'll sign this one.
I think that was it for, in fact, I know that was it for any other business.
All right, I'll finish signing this. Okay, so the next thing, we have no personnel change forms or personnel requisitions. We have under licenses and permits, 2 requests for one-day alcohol events at Conant Park. One from Kathy Lemke for July 17th from 2 to 9 p.m. for graduation, and a second from Carolyn Florick for July 31st from 1 to 7 p.m. for a wedding shower. Both are for one-day wine and malt licenses. And you have all the paperwork in your packet, along with the certificate. Anything you want to add, Ed? They've all paid their fees and everything's in order?
Everything is in order. They've all paid their fees. They all have pavilion permits for use of the Conant Park Pavilion.
Okay.
So everything is in order.
Make a motion to approve both of them.
Okay,
Second?
all right. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, Chris, moving on to the warrants.
Yeah. Okay, we have 4 warrants. The first one is a vendor payable warrant, W2151, in the amount of $165,933.44. Following up with a payroll warrant, P2152A, in the amount of $295,069.44. And then a second payroll warrant, this one is a payroll warrant lump sum teachers, P2152LS, in the amount of $131,823.74. And the last one is a payroll deduction warrant, PD 2152, in the amount of $67,079.09. And I think that's it. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Another document for signature, the East Street Bridge contract, which is in your packet, the contract agreement.
And along with this, which requires signatures, I would also ask you to actually formally take a vote to award the contract to MIG Corporation, and authorize myself to sign that award letter to go along with these contracts.
All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Second, okay. Any more discussion? The contract that you will be signing will have the dates that you gave us earlier.
Yes, it has the...
Completed by May 2nd, 2022.
Yeah.
And final.
Substantial completed on or before May 2nd, 2022, and fully completed and ready for final payment in accordance with paragraph 1413 of the general conditions on or before June 23rd, 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. There you go.
And I'll pass these down. There's 4 of them. Just sign them at your convenience, please.
I'll just hang on to these for now. Okay, moving along to the minutes of May 6th, May 18th, and May 24th. Let's start with May 6th. Any comments? I just had one little typo under reports on the first one, which I can give you. It just changes the word "had" to "and." But I didn't find anything substantive in the May 6th.
Sorry, the May 6th one? Or
Right.
What was the change?
The change under reports, under the one Ms. Tishman noted, when it comes to due to lack of a quorum and has been rescheduled. It has.
Has, yes.
Yeah, that's all. Chris, any comments on this
I
one?
don't think so. I had one on a different one, not this one.
All right. Okay, then let's move then to the May 18th minutes.
Yeah, trying to see just the way this was copied here. I'm not sure. Yeah, on the May 18th, hold on just a second. Wait a minute. There's something here. It's just the way these got photocopied here. Hold on. Wow, how can I find it? It was related to it was basically a numbering issue on the various articles for the town meeting warrant.
Okay.
A lot of things got lumped in under the category of community preservation. I'm just trying to put my finger on it. It might have been the May 6th one after all. Hold on. All right, it is the May 6th one, I'm sorry, I missed it.
Oh, okay, let's go back.
On page 3 of May 6th.
Okay.
It's the proposed articles for the annual town meeting. The first 7 are kind of listed just fine. Then it comes down to community preservation requests. If you see that at the bottom of page 3. The first 5 are all related to CPC,
Right.
which is fine. But then number 6, 7, and 8, prior fiscal year bills, revolving funds, and transfer for WPAT bonds, all get, they look like they're listed as part of community preservation, but they aren't, obviously. So it's, I think it's just either take out the numbers or
Move it out, yeah.
something.
Or
to make it
make,
clear.
or start with, community preservation is 8, then prior fiscal years will be 9, 10, 11.
Something like that,
Bring
yeah.
up the number.
Right,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, just so it doesn't, it made it look like they were all part of community preservation, which obviously they're not, so.
Okay.
Sorry, that was that one.
So Ed, you okay with that change? You got it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so
That
we
was-
went through the 6th, the 18th, Chris,
I
John, anything?
don't think I saw anything there that looked.
Okay. All right, and then let's move on then to May 24th.
No, I think this one was okay. I don't think I saw anything there in particular.
Okay. All right.
I think we're okay on that one.
You all right? Good. Okay, then, can I have a motion to accept the minutes of May 6th, May 18th, and May 24th as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, abstain, John. Thank you. All right, pending items, anything to bring us up to speed here on Ed?
No.
All right. And next, we know that our next meeting, our July meetings are scheduled for July 13th and July 27th at 6 o'clock here in the Select Board room. Okay, so it brings us to open time for the public. I don't see anyone here in our audience, so we'll just move on from that. Any correspondence to be read?
No.
No? Okay. All right, well, we're going to adjourn to executive session. We're not adjourning from the meeting, but from the public, we're adjourning from the public portion of the meeting and moving on to executive session. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. Local 130 New England Police Benevolent Association dispatch. That'll be the topic of our executive session tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn the public portion of the meeting, move to the executive session, not returning to the public?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Second? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that...